Today we're going to make white beans, or navy beans as they're called, and we're going to do this from dry to finish by using the powers of the pressure cooker. And when I was a kid, we would set out the beans the night before, we'd get them the next morning, rinse them, and put them in, which is still a valid way to do that. And you can indeed do that, soak them now, and still use a pressure cooker. However, many times I decide I want beans, and, well, they're like this. So the pressure cooker really helps us with this. The main thing is we want to ensure that we properly season them and that there has enough liquid. So it should be about 2 cups of liquid for every 1 cup of beans, minimum, and then I check them. So we're going to start off today with our ingredients. We're going to use these dry white beans. We're going to get about 1 cup of them. We have a little bit of garlic. We're going to cut this onion just roughly. We have salt, garlic powder, onion powder, little bay leaves, and some pepper. We also have a tiny bit, we're going to use a little bit of the bacon drippings that we used for our cornbread in the bottom. And I have some leftover ham that's already cooked that we had for a big family dinner. And I'm going to use one of the fattier parts of this to help season those beans. So I have a 1 cup of white beans. Now this can be pintos, this can be black-eyed peas, this can be split greens. All beans basically cook the same. The bigger the bean, the longer it takes. But these are just simple little white navy beans, we used to call them. I'm going to take a little bit of our bacon drippings to season in the bottom. You can use a smoked ham hock, which is my preference, but this is March 2020, so we don't have access to the grocery stores and finding smoked ham hocks. Therefore, it's why I'm using some leftover ham. But to give that smoky flavor, I am going to use a little bit of those bacon drippings. And this is about half of a tablespoon. I'm going to put that just right into the bottom of my pressure cooker. To that, in the bottom, I'm going to add, this is our baggie of ham, and I've got this nice big piece here that's got lots of fat. Now this you won't want to eat. You'll want to take this out later because it is already cooked, which means when we cook it again, it's going to really turn kind of dry. We're only putting this in for the flavor it's going to impart. So we're going to put that in there, another little small piece of fat, and the rest of this is pretty dry, so we're not going to use any more than that. These instructions are really fluid because you never know. It's sort of a thing you do with stuff you've got. So we've put those all in there. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and add our beans. Remember, those are dried. We've got 1 cup. I will tell you that 1 cup turns into like 2 cups real fast, so you never want to cook too many. I can't tell you how many times I've frozen extra peas because I made too much. Then we're going to add in the 2 cups of water. You want to make sure that those beans are covered. If you feel like you need a little bit more, it's fine. You can go up to 4 cups if you want to. To this, we're going to add a little bit of seasoning. We're going to add about, now remember we've got that ham in there. We've also got that bacon drippings in there. So I'm going to add about a half of a teaspoon of salt. We can adjust this later. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, not salt. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of onion powder, not salt. And I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of black pepper. This is freshly ground, and let me tell you, pepper, you can never have too much. I'm going to toss in 3 bay leaves, and those will get out before we serve it, of course. And then we're going to put in an onion and some fresh garlic. So in our pressure cooker, I'm using the Power Pressure Cooker XL. It's an older model. I don't have an Instapot, so I can't advise you on how much or how long to do this. You're going to have to play with that a little bit or consult your manual. But I'm going to season this up or seal this up. In here we have 1 cup of white beans, 2 cups of water, onion powder, garlic powder, bay leaves, a little bit of bacon drippings, a little bit of ham that's already cooked with a little fat in it, and some salt and pepper, very lightly. We're going to set it to the beans. And this says 5 minutes. This is assuming they've already been soaked. So I'm going to up that time. I'm going to put this at about 20 minutes and let that go. This is going to do a natural release on this, and then we'll judge at that time both our seasoning and the tenderness of the beans. And in the meantime, we're going to make some jalapeno cornbread to have that with. So the pressure cooker has indicated it's run the amount of time we scheduled it for, and it's naturally released the steam. So we're going to take a look and see how our beans are doing. These pots have a lot of condensation on the inside, and they have a lot of water around that edge. So when I take this off, I already have a towel that I'm going to put that on. So we're going to take that off. And now we're going to get a big wooden spoon. And we're going to take a look at our beans. Now, you can't see really well, I don't think. Can you see okay? All right, so you see that the beans, they look pretty tender. We have enough liquid. At this point, I'm going to take that piece of ham out because it served its purpose, and there's no point in having it in there. Dry off and cut it up into tiny bits and dehydrate it and use it for dog treats. No waste, right? We're going to take out our bay leaves. Where's the other one? Where'd you go? Oh, it stuck to it. Always remember how many bay leaves. Now, here's the nice thing. Look at how that onion did. Even though it was really big, it's just these nice little curls, and it's nicely broken down and really given up a lot of flavor. So we want to remember that just use those big quarters of the onion. If you cut it up, it will completely disappear. And we're going to give a little tiny test, to that sauce and see if it's too salty or if it needs a little more this or that. Well, it's right on the barrel head. This was, always has been a good ratio. So we're going to put this back together, and we're going to keep this on just slow cook for about 20-25 minutes while our cornbread's cooking off, and let that make it even softer. Now you could turn it back to pressure cook at 5 minutes and let it pressure cook a little bit more if you like them really soft. As a matter of fact, let's do that, and I'll show you what happens. That way, if you're really in a hurry, you can do this, because you might have cornbread left over, so you're not waiting for it to cook. So we're going to put this all back together and turn it off. And then we're just going to go to beans, put it at 5, make sure that our steam vent is closed, and let that guy go for a little while longer. Right now, all we have to do is have a margarita or something and wait for that cornbread to cook. Wait for those beans to cook. And the nice thing about this is you can make this the day ahead. You can make it the night before. You can make it a day ahead even and refrigerate this and refrigerate that cornbread, and it'll be just as good. It makes great leftovers, and it's a quick meal with lots of protein, and it has virtually no fat other than that tiny bit of bacon and ham that you use, but it's not a lot. So we'll see you in a few minutes. We've now taken our beans out of the pressure cooker, and they're creamy, and you can see it's thickened. We added no thickeners to this at all. That's just the beans themselves, and they're soft, but they're not mushy. The onion pieces have remained large, but yet they're soft and tender, and this is already seasoned beautifully. You can use this recipe for any bean, just depending upon the size of the bean or the pea as to how much you want to cook it. A larger bean will take a little bit longer. And remember, you can pre-soak these if you'd like, but in a pinch, this really only took about 30 minutes, and you can have wonderful beans right there tonight without opening a can with every preservative and chemical known to mankind. Enjoy your beans. They're good for you. Here we have our cornbread that we made with jalapenos, corn, and fresh ground yellow cornmeal. We have our beans. These are white beans, navy beans, made with nothing more than onions and some seasonings. And we have our little pico picante sauce here to add to it. Now, I'm of the ilk that I take my cornbread in a big bowl and pour my beans over it. Not everybody does that, but if you haven't done it, you should try it because it's delicious. So we're going to pull up some of our beans and plate them in a beautiful bowl. Don't be skimpy. Now, beans are a great way to feed a family, and it's an economical choice. It's also very good for you. Beans of all kinds are delicious. They take on the flavor in which you impart with them with some spices and other vegetables. And here we have a wonderful result of our beans and onions with our cornbread. And if I were going to eat this, this is how I'd do it. I'd take that cornbread, put it in a big, huge bowl, pour those over it, and top it with that pico, and I would be happy as a clam. Thanks for joining us today at the Home Cooking Kitchen, and we hope to see you next time. Enjoy your beans and cornbread, y'all.